it's Renee with Delaney Jane Cards. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have another video for the Not Too Shabby shop. Before I get into it, I will have the shop link below, but remember N2S10 will get you 10% off your order. I'll also have that below, so I guess you don't need to remember. Just hit up my description box before you go head over to Jamie's shop. Anyway, today we're going to be using this stamp set here called My SomeBunny, and it is by Paperie Ink. Jamie just started stocking these. She has several. I want to say like maybe eight of their sets in her shop. They're super cute. I currently own 2 sets. I plan to own them all. They're just very adorable images. This set has 4 bunnies, 4 different images with bunnies. Each of them are in a flower pot with different flowers. And then it has 4 little birds and then 1 sentiment. So what I did is I stamped 2 of the, well, first of all, I did use all of the images and the sentiment in this one card. So 2 of the images I stamped directly onto the panel that is going to be the card panel. One of them has kind of a mix of flowers. The other one has lilies with the bunny. So that's what you're seeing here. And then I ink blended some clouds into the background using some very different colors. This is dried marigold and spun sugar. The pink and the orange are definitely they're colors you see in the sky. Just, I guess when I think of a sky, they're not the first ones that I think of. Usually I think of blue, but I do like adding those really neat colors. You know, you see the people posting the sky shots on Facebook all the time, like, look at this beautiful sky. This is one of those. And then I added shaded lilac because we've been getting a lot of purple skies here in Wisconsin. I think it's a really pretty color to add in. Side note, shaded lilac and blueprint sketch are my favorite distress oxide combination. If that's ever in one of those like bar trivia things, now you know. So I carefully ink blended the clouds, and then at a certain point I decided I better lay down my masks just so I didn't kind of ink blend over my 2 little images here. I had stamped those and cut them out of some Gina K masking magic paper. And then I brought down the clouds a little bit more, added a little bit more color in a little bit lower. I think that this color combination of the pink and the orange and the purple is really pretty for kind of a spring sky. And it also sets the tone for the color combination that I'm going to use throughout the whole card. For the ground, I ink blended cracked pistachio in distress oxide here down at the bottom, but then to transition it between that cracked pistachio and then that multicolored sky, I brought in the broken china and I blended that into the distress, into the cracked pistachio, and kind of gives the illusion that there might be sky before you get to the bright clouds. And then I just took what was left on my brush and I blended that into the clouds a little bit too, so that I brought that blue up, kind of made everything cohesive. And then I peeled the masks off, and this is my favorite part of masking. It's not the masking, it is the unmasking. I think it's so cool how you can get all sorts of different things, and it just, like, what a neat concept to protect your image like that. And you know, it's neat. It's neat to see. So here I decided, instead of like a really bold green for these, I'm going to stay in that same kind of color palette here. And I used a really light green combination. Actually, it's a blue-green combination. It's BG11, BG32, and G02. The G02 is almost a dead-on match for that cracked pistachio. And I thought, since I wanted to keep in the same color tones as what the background is, I thought that would be a really good combination. You can see there how it's very, very close in shade to that cracked pistachio. If you were ink blending something and you needed to, like, let's say your mask wasn't the best fit and you have a little white edge, that would be a good color to fill that in. Or if you're trying to shade something that is blended in cracked pistachio, that also would be a good color to do that. With that being said, I did color over my Distress Oxides with my Copic markers while I made this card, just a little bit, and I didn't have any issues. I don't normally do that because I had heard that it might be hard to color over, and I might have even said that in a video or two, that I wouldn't recommend it, but I guess it's because I had never really tried. I didn't do much coloring over it, so I can't say I would 100% recommend you do that, but I can't say I don't recommend you do that because, well, I did it and I didn't have any problems, but they're your markers, they're your supplies. You do what you want to do. I am showing you kind of the coloring on both of these here real quick, but I will focus in more on the one that's down in the corner with all of the different assortment of flowers in it here. You can see that I went through and colored all of the flowers with the YO2 just to put in the shading, or just to put in color, and then I shaded them with the Y19 and then kind of went back over and blended it out. For this more, I guess, circular tulip, I used a pink combination, the R81 family or R80 family. For the other tulip, I'm going to use a violet family. Now, these are both colors that are a little bit more bold than what is in the sky, but they coordinate very well with those colors that are up there in the clouds. So it just pulls those colors back in. So far, the only color that I've used that hasn't been really represented in the clouds is the yellow, and I think the yellow adds a really good balance in the end. For these little bunnies, I did use my W markers. I think these images would be great in a coloring book. That's what they feel like to me. All of the Paperie ink images feel like coloring book images. They have that really simple design to them, nice open spaces, very simple shapes, I guess. Makes them easy to color, and I think that they lend themselves well to learning the color. They would lend themselves well to watercolor. I think that they definitely lend themselves well to Copic coloring. You could do all sorts of things with them. They have very clean, easy lines if you wanted to paper piece things. I think that Paperie ink, they got something right when they decided that this is how they wanted to design their images. For the white that I'm doing for the daffodils here, I used B60. It's kind of a bluey purple color. It's really good shadow for blues, or for whites, I mean, for look white. It's also a really good combination with the lower cool grays. Makes a really pretty, like, gray blue color for critters. I absolutely like it for that too. Between the flowers where I didn't cut out the mask, I just filled them in with that BG11 and the BG32 to make sure that I had that filled in. It didn't need to be perfect, and nobody is going to inspect it that close. For the flower pots, I used the YR60 family. Just 3 markers. I think it's the 61, 65, and 68. Colored it in with the 61, added the 68 in the shadows, blended it out with the 65, and then blended it further with the 61. I thought it was the perfect complement to the orange up in the clouds. And even though it's a little bit more bold, it definitely ties it in. For my little birds here, I went with blues, and I colored them all the same. They all have a blue combination for the birds themselves. And then they have an orange, the orange that I used for the flower pots. I used that for their beaks and their feet. Now here you can see I'm adding kind of a little bit of shading in kind of at the top of their cheeks. And then I'll blend this out. I didn't do the greatest job blending this when I first colored them. You'll see I come back to them much later and blend them out a little bit more. But this is just the B20 family, so the 21, 23, and 24. Use that to create some cute little bluebirds, and I really like how they turned out. I believe these images are mirrored images. I can't tell you exactly if they are, but they look like they probably are pretty close. So if you were making spinner cards, this might be a really good set for that. At least the birds, you could make them spin around. I think that they are super cute. And for the cheeks on all my critters and the insides of the bunnies, I used the RV42 and blended it out with either the blue on the birds or the gray on the bunnies. I did add the sentiment directly onto the panel here, and it just says for my SomeBunny special, or for my special SomeBunny. I stamped it in VersaFine Onyx Black ink right here in the sky. I wasn't sure if I was going to heat emboss it, which is why I waited until I had everything else cut and colored and cut out before I stamped it. But in the end, I decided to just stamp it, no heat embossing. And then I decided this is where I was coloring on the Distress Oxides here. I added a little bit of shading to make these like little hills for these little bunnies to sit on, because at this point they're just kind of floating. I know I ink blended it so that it looks like grass, but they're just kind of floating in the grass. There's nothing to weigh them down or to ground them. So I did add little hills here and shaded those, and then I popped up my little bunnies using some foam tape. I also added a little bit of foam tape behind each of my birds, and I used those birds to frame out my sentiment. You can see here I got one facing the right, one facing the left. The same is with this other style of bird that's kind of looks like it's flying forward. One's flying forward to the right, one's flying forward to the left. I think that they're mirrored images. I'll have to take a little bit better look at them, but I think that's what they look like. So I just framed this on some black cardstock, and here's where I went back in and just reblended those birds just a little bit better so it wasn't such a harsh line. And like I said, that's one nice thing about alcohol markers is you can blend them out later. It makes a big difference. So I did add some white gel pen and some black glaze pen details to these. A couple little dots on their cheeks, some little shine lines on their flower pots, and you see I warmed it up on my finger. Sometimes my gel pen needs a little bit of help, so warming it up on my finger helps a little bit. This is a number 10 Jelly Roll pen. It's my favorite. I do have the size 5 and size 8, and I do use them. I did add little white dots to the cheeks of the birds as well, and then I went through and added black glaze pen to all of the eyes of my critters, and I added glossy accents to the bunny's noses and to the birds' beaks for a little bit of shine. And that is my card for today. I'd love to know, first of all, do you like this style image? And secondly, have you checked out Paperie ink? And have you checked out Jamie's shop? I will have it linked below. Like I said, N2S10 will give you 10% off. I'll have all that information below. And Jamie has in her shop that new set that she just released called Pup in a Cup. It's her very first image or design image stamp set that she has drawn herself. So self-illustrated, an actual physical stamp set. And I will have that set linked below, as well as the 2 videos that I have showcasing them. For the inside of this card, I just stamped that flower bouquet with the bunny in it that has all the different flowers. I stamped that with the cracked pistachio just to finish the inside of my card off. And I appreciate you stopping by today. Check all those things down, all those things linked down in my description box below. Here's a still shot of my card, and I appreciate you very much. Thank you for stopping by, and as I always say, give cards generously. Bye.